Welcome to my first ever knife review. I am reviewing the Fury Extreme Dive Knife by Joy Enterprises. Boom. That is probably one of the coolest looking knives I have ever seen. And it definitely has one of the most aggressive tips of any knife I've seen. The Fury Extreme Dive Knife from Joy Enterprises is custom designed to kill fish with its extreme spear point blade and serrated and razor edge blade. The all-black body and blade allows for complete concealment. Custom Kraton Sheath with rubber strapping for mounting on hose or BCD. That's this thing. Manufactured in Taiwan using high-grade German 420 stainless steel. So this is the BCD thing. I'm never going to use that because I don't use it scuba diving. I use it free diving. This is obviously the rubber and Kraton Sheath. This is the box it comes in. And then beyond that, the blade itself is 3.25 inches. And then there's a little bit of confusion here because on the website they say that it's made of 440C stainless, not 420, which they have in the original description. So I don't know what the real actual make of this steel is. I sent them an email. They did not return any response. So I'm going to guess that it's actually 440, just because I wish it was, instead of 420. And the Kraton Sheath, which I've already talked about, the full length of the blade is 7.75 inches, or the knife, I'm sorry, is 7.75 inches. So the point of this knife is spearfishing, and specifically, as they say, to deliver the final killing blow to a fish. And that is something that this knife excels at. It's pretty awesome. And just to give you an idea of why I think it's so awesome, this is the knife I was using before I used this knife. And this is a SOG Seal Pup. You can see it does have an alright point on it. Nothing near as aggressive as the Fury, but this thing sucks for getting into a fish and giving that last final cut to the brain or the spinal cord. I mean, it just does not get that deep into a fish before it starts to just hang up on the meat and the bones and stuff. It's just a real pain in the butt. So I'm happy to get rid of it. Also, as you can see, it's got a lot of rusting on it. I actually have cleaned this thoroughly. Not that great at resisting corrosion. Anyway, so in using this knife, I found that the sheath is pretty awesome. You can see this knife just snaps right in. It's actually got like a two-stage snapping capability, catching on this and this other point right here on the built into the resin here on the handle. Just snaps right in. And actually, when you are underwater, it's actually way easier putting it back in. So you almost can't feel it going in, which is a little bit of a concern, I guess, because at first you're not sure that it's actually secured. But the good thing about this system is it snaps on both sides, on the front and the back, so that it's actually really secure. I mean, you would never, some other knives come with elastics that go from the bottom of the sheath up around the handle of the knife, and it's like a second layer of security to keep the knife in the sheath, but this does not need that at all. The knife is really lightweight and low profile, so you're not going to catch that on anything. There's not much sticking out to get caught on anything when it's up against your body. The only thing I can say bad about this sheath is the draw. It's a little bit sudden. It takes a little bit of pressure to get it out, and it can be, you know, first couple times you draw, it's a little intimidating. There's a tendency to want to absorb that force and that momentum out and bring back. So when I draw it, I always make sure that instead, especially when I'm using it underwater, to follow through with the draw, to draw out and away, and not, you know, come back and, I guess, potentially stab myself. I like to wear it on my calf because that's just where I like it. Some people wear theirs on their bicep or their forearm. You can wear it on your BCD if you're a scuba diver, I guess. But I like it on my calf, and it works awesome. The rubber straps are perfect. They are already adjusted to fit my calf, so I just literally snap it on using the clips, and it's good to go. It does not slip when I'm drawing it or resheathing the knife at all. Swimming, obviously, since I'm doing free diving, so the profile of this is really important to me. The fact that it's really low profile, sitting flat against your leg, makes it much easier to swim through the water than something that would be bulkier. You know, any little bit to help make life easier when you're trying to hold your breath is going to be good. Also, not catching or snagging on anything underwater. If you're getting into tight spaces, it's important to be nice and thin like that. So that's a really great design feature. And it's also very lightweight. This thing does not weigh much at all. I could not find any information on the exact weight, but this knife alone weighs probably twice as much as this whole, or maybe right about the same as this whole thing, because the rubber actually is heavier than the knife and the sheath itself. The handle is made of this Eazy grip resin, and I have to say it holds pretty nicely in your hand, especially when you're actually underwater. You know, I never experienced any kind of slipping when I was inserting the blade into a fish. You know, whether I'm holding it in any position that I need to, I never really had any problems with that. It's as far as ergonomics go, it's flat, you know, so it's never going to feel as comfortable in your hand as something round that gives you a little more to hold on to. But it does, you know, this ribbing and the resin, whatever this resin is they use, really works well. You're not going to lose your grip on this thing. Let's just put it that way. So there is a slight trade-off in that it's not, you know, the most comfortable thing. It's not like a bigger handle which fits nicely in the hand, but the trade-off is that low profile, and when you're doing something like spearfishing, you want that kind of functionality. The blade itself, the extreme spear point, it's awesome. I mean, it really slides easily into the fish, and when you get to the bone, you know, it does a great job just pushing right through that. You got to give a little more effort, obviously, when you get to bone. It doesn't matter what kind of knife you got for that, but you know, you just give it a few wiggles, maybe a quick saw or a twist, and you're gonna break the brain cavity or sever the spine and put that fish out of its misery pretty quickly. It's very easy to find the kill spot with this knife. This knife, I've dug in fish for 5 or 10 minutes and been unable to kill them. This is very fast. Durability wise for this blade, you can probably see that it's not the thickest blade in the world. I mean, it's a pretty strong knife though. It's got a little bit of flex to it, just a little bit. It's a little more flexible than something that I could compare it to one of the smaller Rife blades, which are extremely rigid, and the steel on those blades is probably about you know, another half again as thick as this blade is. So you know, the thickness of the blade, you know, I don't think it really hurts it durability wise. I think for the purpose it's meant to be used for, killing fish, you don't need some over the top insanely strong blade. You're not going to be, you know, cutting through wood or batoning this knife. It's just going to be going through meat and bone. So actually thinner is better in that sense. You don't want to have, you know, all that weight and all that useless metal. You just don't need it. So durability wise, it's perfect for what it does. I did ask Joy Enterprise if it had a full tang or a partial tang, but once again that email was not responded to, so I am going to assume that it's a partial tang, because you cannot see any metal through the lanyard hole or through this other looks like maybe an air relief hole. You cannot see any metal there. So the other part durability wise is this black coating they've got here on the blade. It has already started to wear off, and I've really only used this to kill fish. So, I mean, the coating's going to wear away, but I really don't care. As long as the knife works, it doesn't really matter to me if it gets a little scratched up. You know, that's the thing to me is looks are not as important as functionality. Cutting. So, I don't really use this knife to do any real kind of cutting, but of course you could get in a situation where you say you get some mono. You know, you need to cut through. I've never done this, so I'm just gonna assume, yeah, I mean, this is just 15-pound test. Well, just slid right through that. This is 15-pound test mono. You know, it's gonna cut through it with very minimal effort. Here is a piece of kind of nylon cordage that was on an anchor I found once underwater. So this has been sitting underwater a little while, but I'm not really doing much, and it just went right through that. Let's try this serrated side. Oops. Well, just one time, nylon's done. You can try some thicker stuff here. See how long it takes to get through this. Oh, that was pretty ridiculous. So, as you can see, even though I've used this and I haven't resharpened it, it's cutting through all of the this rope really easily. So if you did need to use it for that, which I probably never will, it's going to work great. So when you compare this to other types of blades that are out there, this has the most aggressive tip of any blade I've seen, which I think is going to make it way more functional. It's just going to be better than other knives which have a more gradual tip that is not as aggressive. It's made of stainless steel, so it means you can resharpen at least this edge if you need to, or the tip, I guess. If you need to resharpen it, you probably won't, but you know, the other knives out there made of titanium, yeah, they're going to be more corrosion resistant than this, but it's still, stainless steel is a great way to go, because at least you can resharpen it fairly well and get a nice edge on there if you do wear it out. It's obviously about 1,000 times better than that Seal Pup knife I showed you earlier. Corrosion resistance. It has adequate resistance. I did get some corrosion after, you know, just to test it, I left it, just went diving and left it for about a day with the salt water, and it got a little bit of corrosion on the blade, which I just wiped off. I used the rough side of a dish sponge, and it came right off with just soap and water. I didn't have to use any products on it. Obviously, it's stainless blade. If you really want to keep this thing nice, you're going to want to rinse it off and dry it off after every single use. Now, the best thing about this blade is by far the price. Right now on Amazon, I just looked at it, it's $18.90 before shipping, and that is ridiculous, in case you didn't know. That is a ridiculous price. I think Omer makes a fairly cheap one around $30, but there is nothing that I can tell that beats this knife in price, and there's no way I'm going to pay more money for a knife that doesn't have as aggressive as a blade, and frankly isn't going to do any better. It's going to probably be a little bit worse than this knife. So there's just literally nothing that beats this thing as far as value goes. It's low, super cheaply priced knife. So other reviewers kind of mentioned that this would be good for like a fighting knife. It's just not going to work for that. It really has the one purpose, and that's killing fish while you're spearfishing, getting them under control quickly to avoid any predators noticing your now dead fish, and to, of course, control the fish yourself so that you can get it back on the boat safely and quickly. So with that said, you know, I think there's really no other value knife out there better than this knife, and I think you're going to be hard pressed to find something that beats it. Maybe one day I'll try to get some the more expensive knives and review those and compare them to this thing, but I honestly have very little reason to pay, you know, $60, $50, $30, you know, $100, whatever it may be for some of the knives out there, when you can just get this for 20 bucks. So thank you guys for watching, and if you're looking for a cheap spearfishing knife, look no further than the Fury Extreme Dive Knife.